we'll start this one off. We'll talk a little bit of Oakland men's basketball to start things off because we haven't talked about them in a little bit. Obviously, it's the off season. There's been some, I was about to say free agency, but there's been some portal moves. As well as just normal graduation moves in terms of how the roster is going to be constructed for this next season, the follow-up to the Kentucky win in the March Madness tournament, round of 64. And just to kind of give you guys a sense, these are the notes I got for today. We're laying back a little bit. But to kind of update everybody is if you haven't been looking at the Golden Grizzlies since their win over Kentucky, since their overtime loss to NC State this past March, then to breeze through it, the biggest story for the Golden Grizzlies offseason is Trae Townsend deciding to take his fifth year, not with the Golden Grizzlies, but over in Arizona. He was able to move into the portal. It was his third visit, and I believe you're allowed 5 official visits. He made only 3, and Arizona was the one that locked him up. So he has a big opportunity to play at a much higher level than he would have here in the Horizon League. And, of course, it's sad. And this is going to apply to all the other players that have gone into the transfer portal. Of course, it's a shame to lose the guys that, we've seen all this season, that we've seen them grow and succeed together. Yeah, it sucks to see them go, but I want everyone to understand that it's not I don't see it as much as a loyalty thing when it comes to players moving in the portal. Now, you can bring it to a higher level, a bird's eye view in that sense. Yeah, there's not a lot of loyalty in college sports anymore, and that used to be kind of the big thing. The big draw was loyalty to the program, loyalty to the school and to the area. But you can't blame the players for that not being there anymore. The transfer portal is a rule and is a opportunity that all these players have. They would be stupid to not go and take advantage of it, especially for players right here at Oakland at the kind of lower level of college sports. You found an opportunity to crash through that kind of ceiling that the Horizon League has. You got to take advantage of it. You got to give yourself that opportunity to play at a higher level, not only to see what you're made of, but just to experience something that you would have been able to otherwise if it weren't for the success that they had at Oakland last season. So when it comes to Trae moving to Arizona and the other players we're going to mention as well, listen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This may never happen for them again. I can't imagine us, doing the exact same thing this next season, making it to the NCAA tournament, winning, and going to overtime in the second round. Like, as amazing as it was, you all got to understand, that's a very tough thing to repeat. So with that, you got to take advantage of the opportunity that you have, and Trae has done that by moving to Arizona. Someone else who had a big opportunity to move up is Chris Conway going to Washington. Chris Conway is now in the Big Ten. That's like, that one really came out of left field for me because the big storyline for Chris Conway and his journey through Oakland kind of coinciding with that of Trae Townsend. Those guys were roommates. They were best buds here at Oakland. But, with his story kind of being going about it the old school way, sticking with the program, getting yourself to a level to where you can play and not just leaving at the first sight of not playing. That was kind of his story. That's something Campy would mention very often throughout the season and post-game press conferences and that kind of stuff. So my initial reaction was, well, I hope he stays. I thought he was going to stay, but when the opportunity comes, like I mentioned, to move to the higher level, Washington's giving him a look, him coming in as a veteran, as what would be a leader on that team, at least in terms of, years in college basketball. Yeah, you're going to go to Washington, man. You're going to get that opportunity to see something new, to play at a higher level, to in terms of not even basketball, but like just your life as a college student, as a young man. You want to go and experience some cool things. To stay at Oakland is great for us as fans, but you got, understand, if you're given that opportunity, I keep mentioning it, but if you're offered what I understand was a pretty big package for him to go there, golly, you got to take it, man. So Trae goes to Arizona and Chris goes to Washington. And we also have the graduation of Jack Golke, of Blake Lampman, and Rocket Watts. So when you think about it, that's most of the starting five that we had last year. That was Blake and Trey. Chris would get some. Chris would get some starts. Either way, that's most of our starting five. So with a lot coming out, we got to have a lot coming in. And we did have some pretty good additions in the offseason. And again, this is kind of a layback, just kind of off the top of my head kind of thing. We'll dive into it more deeply as the offseason kind of develops and we get a much more solidified idea as to what this team is going to be. I want to kind of hold off on that because it's very early to kind of assess where the team's going to be. So we'll take some time to study it, and we'll talk about it more specifically at a later date. But just off the top of my head, we had great additions. The biggest one for me in terms of whoa, is Jason Woodridge from Cleveland State, because he's from Cleveland State, and I'm not saying no one's ever kind of crossed the lines of, moving within the conference. Isaiah Jones came from Detroit Mercy just last year. This stuff happens. But for Jason to get an opportunity to come here at Oakland, this is a great fit for him. That dude's a 3-point shooter, man. And if Blake and Jack were any indication as to what Oakland can do with 3-point shooters, and you go even farther, Travis Bader, and all the 3-point shooters that we've had come through the program, man, why wouldn't you want to come to Oakland? And Jason's got that opportunity to be that kind of huge 3-point shooter for us because we lost it big time with Jack and Blake graduating. So that's going to plug a big hole for this team. So Jason Woodridge, to me, was a big addition to this team. And it's the one I at least had the most knowledge of. We did have some other big transfers. Isaiah Jones's brother, Jalen Jones. I hope it's Jalen. Let me look at that for sure. But Jalen Jones from Tennessee State now coming to Oakland to play with his brother Isaiah. And that him being a point guard, again, a big spot that we're going to need because I don't think Tone Hunter's coming back. And we already had that kind of vacancy after Jalen Moore left last season through graduation. So to get a point guard in here who already has a lifetime of chemistry with one of our starting five, that's going to be a big deal. And I think that's a big addition. And, we heard kind of rumors of it on Twitter before it was officially announced, and that would have been sweet. And now it actually is true. It would have been sweet. It was a thought before. Now we finally got it. And I think that's a really cool addition. Now, specific skill and fit aside, I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. We got the laid back version of the show today. So him is another big addition. And we have that they're not the only pairs of brothers that are going to be on this team. We got let me look. We got the Hoth twins coming into the program as well. Big, kind of big time players coming out of, I believe, high school, and they're going to be a big addition to this, especially kind of going forward in this. Let me go and make sure that it's high school, but no, rather JUCO is the level that they're coming from. Jack Hoth and Chang Hoth are the twin brothers that are coming into the program here. So I like that kind of team building. Listen, you get brothers playing. They've been playing with each other forever. So that's a lot of pre-built chemistry coming into this team. And that could, I'm not saying that I know that the Hoth twins are going to be starting or having a lot of minutes and stuff, or even if the Joneses are going to be playing together a lot. I don't know this stuff. We don't know this stuff. It's July. But if and when they do eventually down the road, man, that is going to be a huge advantage in terms of communication. And once they kind of learn the zone system, it's another level of connection that they're going to have. So I'm really excited about that one. And we did have a bunch of other additions as well. Again, we'll get into those deeper, but I just wanted to kind of go over them off the top of my head and kind of see how the roster is going to shake out. And like I kind of mentioned before, when it came to those leaving in the transfer portal, I don't know what next season's going to look like. I don't know if losing a lot of our best players is going to be something we're immediately going to be able to recover from. And that's not anything against Campy, and that's not anything against the coaching staff or the players coming in. That's a high bar at this level of basketball to reach. And it's not, it doesn't mean you suck if you can't do the exact same thing again with a really big different roster, It's not slight to anybody. It's just how it is. We got to understand this. As big Oakland fans as we are, we got to understand that was a pretty rare season that we had. There was a lot of stars aligning for that season. It took Trey going from a second team All-Horizon League player to a player of the year, first team, tournament player of the year, big, best stat line ever in postseason basketball since Kevin Durant in the championship game. It took that. It took Blake Laming playing through or almost being sidelined for the rest of the season with a hip injury, but he was able to come back and make it work that way. It took a lot for this season to happen, and it's not something that's easily repeated. So I want all of us to kind of understand that going into this next season as a realistic fan. This stuff's hard to repeat. But some other stuff that I'm looking forward to for this season in terms of the returning players. So I mentioned that we lost quite a bit of players. We lost Trey, we lost Chris, Rocket, Jack, Blake. We lost 5 big pieces. In addition, say Price, Mike Rogers, I think Tone Hunter out in the transfer portal. But some of the players that are staying, at least as of now, I don't know when the transfer portal closes or if it ever does, but for now on July 16th, some of the big returning players that I'm excited for is the 3 of Baru, Nevalarua, DQ Cole, and Isaiah Jones. Because they're really the only players coming into the program with, on-court experience from at least last season. And, of course, we got Xavier Banks and Cooper Craggs on, we'll say the back burner just because they're out with injury and weren't able to play. Hopefully they're going to be able to come in and be a bigger part of the roster. But those 3 guys are the ones I'm specifically excited about because Isaiah Jones proved himself to be a fantastic player, filling in the role of a glue guy in terms of this team. Does great in the zone. He's great defensively. And we've seen spots where he could score if he has to, but it's not always what he's asked to do. But I love that guy, and I'm expecting another big season from him. DQ Cole was a firecracker last season. There were spots where I was calling the game. I think it was against Youngstown State. I was on the call and I was right on the bench. I saw within a 2-minute span, he was subbed in, scored 8 points, and came out in 2 minutes. That dude can light it up. He had remember, he had the 3-pointer against Kentucky that sealed the deal at the end of the game. A Rocket dished it to him in the far corner. Listen, DQ Cole is a dog. Product of Pontiac, man, and he, was in that kind of rotation as to filling in for the point guard position on this team, but that dude can do it all, really. I've seen him get double-digit rebounds at Wright State. I've seen him score 20-plus points. I've seen him be a monster from 3. He can do it all. And with him now, I'm assuming getting a bigger role coming into this next season is my best guess. I think that giving him the ball more is going to be a good thing. So I'm excited to see that. And I would say what is my biggest optimism and source of hype for this next season is what Baru is going to be able to do with an entire offseason under his belt. Because we saw him sparingly last season. And part of it was because I forget the specific reason, but basically he wasn't able to come in and practice with the team until basically the start of the season. So he missed an entire summer of learning a very complicated zone that Campy runs. And this stuff is hard to learn. And if you're learning it throughout the season, you can only do so much. Campy mentioned that at a certain, maybe towards the end of the season, Baru only knew 20% of what he needed to know because of all the time he missed. And because it's hard to kind of reteach somebody as the season's going, so you kind of have to kind of go along with it. But I'm super excited to see what he can do with that full offseason underneath his belt. Because is he the biggest? No, he's not. But that dude can soar to the ceiling. He's 6'6", but just to kind of put a number to it. But that dude, you hear the legends he jumped higher than the highest measurement on the Vertimax. And you see it. That dude could get his elbow at the bottom of the backboard. Like, he is insane with the height that he can reach. And I've been dying to see it all season long. Him to catch a lob and slam it down. We've seen it maybe once, but a lot of attempts to kind of get him in that groove as a high flyer, Harlem Globetrotter type of player. I'm really looking forward to what he can do defensively and kind of in a Slam City type of setting throughout the season. I'm really looking forward to that. And I think he's going to be a huge piece in the Horizon League. Campy agrees because, I mean, like, that's all he was mentioning throughout the, kind of post-game press conferences during the season, is that he has the potential to be one of the best players in the Horizon League. He's got the physical tools, and a whole offseason is going to do him really, really well. So I'm really excited to see what he can do along with Cole and Jones, like we were mentioning before, as kind of the bigger returning players for the Golden Grizzlies. So that'll wrap it up for this segment of basketball. Again, this is a laid-back episode. You could tell by the way I'm looking. If you can't, tell visually, we're chilling out for this week. So with that, we're gonna go through this past couple of weeks of the USPBL in a brief sense. We'll talk a little bit about the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby. I was in attendance for that one, so we'll talk all about that. Some Royal Oak Leprechauns stuff to talk about, as well as I visited them that last weekend as well. Got to see what it's like down there in Royal Oak. And then we'll kind of talk about the receiver documentary, just kind of in passing. We're just chilling out here on the GioMoShow. So we'll be right back with all that fun stuff right here on the GioMoShow.